welcome to the family meeting sponsored by the Center for Biblical Unity. And I'm Krista Bontrager. I'm the vice president. And Kevin is our managing director. My background is in theology. I'm a public theologian and also apologetics. Kevin, why don't you give people one sentence on what your background is? What are you doing here?
Ooh, my background is in military and geopolitical things and all things theology.
In the Middle East.
Middle East, yes.
So we're not just a couple of random YouTubers getting on here talking around the kitchen table about our opinions. Like we got some, to coin a phrase, we got some informed takes on things.
Nice. Well
Go
played.
check out Kevin's other podcast, Informed Takes.
Yes, we will be live. We'll be back tomorrow. So tune in and check out Devin and I tomorrow as we discuss some of this stuff and a whole lot more. So
for hours and hours.
Yes.
So. All right. We got some people jumping on here. Give us a shout out in the comments. Let us know that you are watching. And glad to have Natalie here for a live family meeting. Natalie is in Florida. And Sherry says she's in the frozen Northeast. Ooh.
Wow. Yeah.
Got someone from DC logging in. So glad to see everybody. Let us know what you want to talk about related to what's in the news. I know that the news cycle just keeps coming at you all the time, and it's a lot to take in. We're trying to help you digest things from a Christian point of view as much as we can, but tell us what's on your mind. We're hoping to we're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening in Venezuela. And then I really want to talk about just defining what is a conservative, because I feel like there's just so much confusion about that term. So if you want to weigh in on what you think about a conservative, you can put that in the chat. All right. So Kevin, there was a lot of pizzas ordered the other night in DC. And when a lot of pizzas get ordered, that means something might be happening.
Absolutely.
And we
it means
all
a
woke
long
up to
night at the
something
Pentagon.
happening.
Yes. Yeah. So Saturday morning, we all woke up and found out that President Trump had ordered an operation on President Maduro in Venezuela, and had taken him, had arrested him and his wife in a operation at the presidential palace in Venezuela. And just totally unexpected. Didn't see that coming. Woke up, saw the news, and then I immediately got started on an article because I knew people were going to have questions and wonder what is the big deal, why Venezuela, what's going on. And so I just wanted to put something out to get ahead of the misinformation and hot takes that were going to be coming out.
Oh, and there's hot takes, baby. There are a lot of hot takes. So yeah, if people want to check out your Substack, let me get that up here so that people can check out your it's kind of an explainer post, I feel like is the best way to talk about it.
I just wanted to inform people, hey, this is a rundown of why Venezuela, what's going on, why it's important, and kind of what is the doctrine behind us being so bullish on Venezuela all of a sudden.
Okay. Now, from what I understand, the Biden administration had put a bounty out on Maduro a few years ago.
Yes.
So it wasn't like Trump just made some excuse up to go snatch him, or as the liberals are saying, like kidnap him. This has been, he's been a problem for a while.
Yes. In the Biden administration, you put a bounty on someone that, like, who's going to cash in, who's going to be able to bring in the president of Venezuela? Unless it's the United States military and law enforcement. Like no one else is going to be able to arrest him. So like, what's the purpose of the bounty if you're not going to act on it?
So Natalie's helping us be more accurate. She says Venezuelans don't want him to be called president because that legitimizes him. We should call him a dictator.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he was.
Marco, Godfather, mafia boss, something along those lines.
It's funny how these socialist movements always start as a movement for the people, but then they're never about the people. And even when the people try to vote them out, they somehow stay in power.
Yeah.
And so, that's what he was. He was a dictator. He lost the election, claimed victory, stayed in power, and was basically using Venezuela to run a drug operation. That's kind of the cliff notes.
So draw the connection for us of like, why should, because we've been talking in recent weeks a lot about the theme of America first. So we're not talking now about the Nick Fuentes version of America first, the ideology, kind of talking more about the slogan, because I'm hearing it more and more. Trump's using it. Other people are using it. Why do you think that we as Americans should care about Maduro, Venezuela? Like, that just seems really far away. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's not far away. It's very close, actually. It is at the very, very top of South America. So, you go past Cuba, go a little further, and you're going to hit Venezuela. It's important to us because since Hugo Chavez came to power in, I think, 1999, Venezuela has been, first of all, he came to power as a socialist communist leader, and he basically turned Venezuela into a anti-US, anti-Western hub. And so whenever someone pulls away from the US, they always latch themselves on to America's enemies. They reach out to Russia, they reach out to China, they reach out to Iran, and they made themselves part of that nexus of powers, I guess you can call it.
So Venezuela is there at the top. We want to be able to find it. We don't want to be an ignorant American and not know our geography. From what I understand, it's only like 300 miles from Cuba. Like, I don't know. It
is not far. Like if you could have scrolled up a little bit further, you'll see Cuba.
Okay.
Cuba is 90 miles from Miami, from Key West.
So the concern here is that Venezuela has kind of become this hub for our enemies, specifically China, Iran, Russia, and they're fairly close to us. Okay, how does that impact my life as an American? Why should I be concerned about that?
It's always, there's always a game being played between world powers. And what Venezuela was a hub in the Western Hemisphere for Russia and China. And this administration, since day one, has made the Western Hemisphere a priority. So for the last 20 years, we've been fighting wars. Even before the last 20 years, but we've been caught up in the Middle East. We've been caught up. You go back to Vietnam, Korea. Like, we've been in the Eastern Hemisphere with our military, our fighting actions, and we just haven't spent a whole lot of time focusing on our own backyard, I guess you could say.
And it is in our backyard. I mean, I'm looking at the map now. I got like a wider view of it. You can see 90 miles from Florida, 300 miles down to Venezuela. So, okay. All right.
Yeah. And so when we talk about military action, is also keep that map up because I want to point out something.
Okay.
So one thing about the reason like Venezuela and Cuba and all this kind of stuff is so important is because if you look at, it's the entrance to the Gulf of Mexico. So all of that oil, all of that shipping and stuff that comes out of there, that is why these waterways are so important, right? And so that's why Cuba's important. It's why, Mexico, Venezuela, all of these areas are important because if you were going to try to hinder the United States, you want to try to pull a blockade or block access to the Gulf of Mexico. And so part of our national defense is to ensure that that does not happen or cannot happen. And so
Okay.
back when Hugo Chavez first came to power and he latched himself on to Russia, back when I was working Homeland Defense, Russia's the big enemy of when we talk about Homeland Defense because nuclear strikes and things like that. Venezuela was buying a lot of military equipment and making a lot of military alliances with Russia, and that's been in place since for the last 25 years. And so it's always been an issue. It's just that we were focused on other things like 9/11 and the war on terror.
Okay.
But now that we're done with all of that, now that Russia has kind of shown itself not to be as powerful as we thought in terms of military power, and we're handing that over to our NATO and European allies, saying, "Hey, you can take care of Russia.
So
You
that's what
shouldn't need us for
Trump's
that."
been doing by trying
Yes,
to get them to
yes,
pay more of their fair share into NATO. He's trying to
yes,
say, look, this is in your backyard. This is not in our backyard.
yes,
Y'all
yes.
need to step up, send your own money, troops, support things. You need to
Because
be
this is what
taking
Europe
the
is
lead.
doing. This is
Okay.
what Europe is doing. Europe could spend more on defense, but they spend less on defense because they have us over there.
Okay.
And they spend their own money on these vast social programs, right? Yeah, and so they're doing healthcare for all and all of these programs instead of spending money on defense because we spend so much money on defense over there. And we basically say, you know what? I think you got the money. Your economy is larger than Russia's, and collectively, you all are much larger military than Russia. You shouldn't need us. And so, with that being said, we're refocusing our priorities to our own backyard and also to China. And so, we're pivoting our focus.
So, do you think we've never really talked about this? We've kind of danced around it in our conversations, but help us understand what China is doing. Like, why do they care about Venezuela, and why do you see them as really our biggest enemy? That the one that we should be the most concerned about.
Because we are in an economic cold war with China. They declared war on us 20 or so years ago. They made us their target, their goal, and everything they've done since then has been to surpass us as the world's leading military and economic power.
So we
And
should think of
so
China the way that my parents thought about the
the
Soviet
Soviet
Union
Union,
in
yes,
when I was growing up, that we were in a cold war. We weren't shooting bullets at them, but we
yeah,
wanted to beat them to the moon. We wanted to beat them in
yeah,
technology and spying and information and all of that.
yeah. And now that is China. And for those 20 years that we were distracted in with the war on terror and fighting in the Middle East and fighting in Afghanistan, China just basically ascended economically, militarily, while we were distracted. And they did a lot of that by stealing a lot of research and technology from us.
Okay.
And so basically they just put us in their crosshairs and they came for us. And until now, we really didn't respond back. But now we're responding back. We're saying, okay, we're not tied up in the Middle East anymore. We're not focused on bin Laden in a cave. You wanted it, now you got it. You got our attention. And now we're focused on things that affect them. And
So they were
because they're actually it's an economic cold war. And so
okay.
China has tried to build, everybody know about BRICS, right? Um,
Maybe you
which
should
is
just tell us a little bit about that, because sometimes we hear that term in the news, but people don't take the time to explain to us.
yeah,
Yeah, what is that,
BRICS.
or why should I care about that?
Yeah, BRICS is just an economic alliance, and it stands for Brazil, China, India, and Russia.
Okay.
Those are the four big ones, and then they added
Like an
like
acronym.
South Africa, yeah, and other nations. And basically, what they're trying to do is be a counter to Western powers, the Western banking system, the dollar. They're trying to. China has this thing called a Belt Road Initiative, where they're trying to create their own kind of economic beltway to challenge the West. And all of these alliances they have around the country or around the world are part of that economic alliance. And
So what
so go ahead.
what role did Venezuela then play for China? Like, were they trying to get the oil, or was it something else?
Yeah,
Because
I
I
mean,
hear
it
that the
was
oil refineries are so dilapidated. Like, I'm a little confused. Like, why did they feel like they needed Venezuela?
well, it's not just needing Venezuela. Well, the oil is important. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, and so Venezuela oil is important. But there's all types of economic interests. Remember, the first thing this administration did when they came into power was they forced China out of Panama. They took back
Right.
over the Panama Canal because China had taken it over, and that's just bad news for China to control the Panama Canal.
Because that's
And
part of
so
trade and
part of trade,
okay.
yeah. Like I said, our military warships passed through there. Everything, we built it, gave it to Panama, and then they essentially, through a contract, gave it over to China for money.
Okay.
And we made Panama renege on that and kick China out and make a deal with us. And so basically, like I said, we're focused on our own backyard. We're focused on our economic interests around the world, and we're
Okay.
focused on disrupting China's aim and goal to replace us or supplant us as the world's leading economic power.
Okay. So let's get into Natalie's question here, which is a question I'm hearing a lot on social media is the Russians, the Chinese, and the Cubans are all still there. They backed up the dictatorship. They don't want to leave. How is the U.S. or how is anybody going to make them leave? Like they're still there. So do you know anything about that plan?
Um, it's just one of those things where whoever, okay, you send a message. You see what we did to Maduro. That's the
Okay.
message. So whoever's in power, and we're leaving them there for stability, the vice president for now, until there's going to be some election at some point. But we left her in power, but she's going to play ball with us because she know if she doesn't, what it looks like.
We're going to
So
make you an
they
offer that you can't refuse.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
And it got I think it got announced earlier today that Venezuela is going to send 30 to 50 billion gallons of oil to America now, and
It's
yeah, it's just
million, not billion, but yeah.
just million. Okay, yeah, 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
here's
so
Trump's announcement. I think it came out late last night. I was looking at it. That they're turning over Venezuela is turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil to the US, and it will be sold at its market price. That money will be controlled by me to ensure that it is used for the benefit of the people of Venezuela and the United States. I don't think I understand this message. I don't think I understand what sanctioned oil is or what Trump's trying to accomplish with here.
yeah. So we have put sanctions on Venezuela's oil. They're exporting the oil. And it seems like he's saying we've made a deal with them that they're going to sell us 30 to 50 million barrels of oil at market price. And we're going to dictate, because remember, he said, we're going to control Venezuela. We're going to run Venezuela. That's what he said in his
That's
press
what he said
conference.
at the press conference.
I
Yeah.
think what this is saying is we're gonna pay them for this oil at market price, but the money we're going to determine where it goes and how it's spent, not their government. And
So that's a
so
way of getting around their remaining kind of dictator or
yeah,
Maduro
because one of
backing
the
government
accusations was that
officials.
Maduro was just using the oil to fund the drug trade. And
Okay.
so essentially we're making sure that the money isn't funding the drug trade and it was keeping Maduro in power as well. And
Okay.
so basically we're going to have oversight of where that money goes and hopefully it goes towards the benefit of the Venezuelan people and actually running the country and not just to the pockets of certain people in Venezuela.
Because I think their first priority is lessons learned from the Iraq war of like, because the Iraq strategy was we're going to go in, we're going to get rid of what was their dictator's name? I forget.
Saddam
Saddam
Hussein.
Hussein.
Yeah.
They're going to capture him. They're going to tear down all the statues. And then they got rid of like everyone who was associated with him in the government. I think they were the
Yep.
Ba'athist
The
party.
Ba'ath Party. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they got rid of everybody, and then they were going to replace them with a democracy. That didn't work. And so lessons learned, we're not going to wipe out the whole government. That destabilizes the whole country. So we're
Yes.
going to leave these kind of Maduro puppets in place, but we're going to play the Godfather. We're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. And we're going to kind of force them into starting to act more ethically and what is in the best interest of their people by selling their oil and not just selling it off to the Chinese communists or the Cubans.
Yes.
Is that the general
It's
plot line?
that's how I see it right now.
Okay.
We'll see, more comes out, but I think that's the general kind of plan.
Now
And you're right,
Natalie
we did learn from Iraq.
Now, Natalie says, and she lives in Miami and she knows a lot of people that are in this community. She said the Cubans have been getting the oil for free. I haven't heard that on
Mm.
the news, but I don't know. Whereas we're gonna be paying for it. Here's a short clip of Marco Rubio earlier today. This is just a couple of hours old, talking about a little bit more about the game plan. It's just a couple minutes.
So as we move forward, we'll describe our process, which is a threefold process in Venezuela. I've described it to them now. Step one is the stabilization of the country. We don't want it descending into chaos. Part of that stabilization, and the reason why we understand and believe that we have the strongest leverage possible, is our quarantine. As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now and in fact about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people, not corruption, not the regime. So we have a lot of leverage to move on the stabilization front. The second phase will be a phase that we call recovery, and that is ensuring that American, Western, and other companies have access to the Venezuelan market in a way that's fair. Also, at the same time, begin to create the process of reconciliation nationally within Venezuela so that the opposition forces can be amnestied and released and from prisons or brought back to the country and begin to rebuild civil society. And then the third phase, of course, will be one of transition. Some of this will overlap. I've described this to them in great detail. We'll have more detail in the days to follow. But we feel like we're moving forward here in a very positive way.
How long will this take, Secretary?
Okay.
That's
we're not
basically the gist of it.
so we're not buying the oil. We're taking the oil and we're going to sell it at market value. Then we're going to take those proceeds and use it to fund and run their country in a way in which they should have been doing it instead of putting it in the pockets of cronies. That's the plan.
Now, Venezuela used to be a very nice country. Natalie
Yes.
on the stream, she said she lived there for about 6 months in 1985. Said it was almost like living in the United States. It was very wealthy, but Chavez destroyed it and Maduro made it worse. And so I guess that's why we saw so many Venezuelans celebrating in the
Yes.
streets. For them, it's a relief that,
Yes. I think the numbers I read was since 2013, 8 million Venezuelans have left the country. Because it's just, I'll use a phrase that's been used recently. The warmth of collectivism ruined that country. It's amazing when you bring in the warmth of collectivism, people can't eat.
Now, my hope is that they'll be able to persuade like the Venezuelan police to cooperate, because I'm seeing on X these horrible videos of goons, is what they're calling them on X, of motorcycle gangs coming after people who are celebrating Maduro's fall. And Natalie's saying the same thing, that there's a growing number of fear about these goons attacking those who are opposed to Maduro or supporting his capture. People are starting to hide. So, hopefully the country doesn't destabilize. Hopefully this plan works. It's a pretty big risk. Now there's, I guess this morning the Coast Guard seized a couple of Russian tankers.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that's about. Like,
is
like, is that legal?
Venezuelan oil. That's what it's about. It's about oil from Venezuela that has been sanctioned, that they've tried to get around and sneak out. Apparently, we've been trying to. They've been avoiding us for a couple of weeks now. Apparently,
Yeah.
and we finally caught up with them.
So here we are landing right on top of their tanker and going to, I guess, capture them. Now, according to our friend Chuck Holton, I watched his live stream today, which people, if you want like up-to-date news, here's our troops going right into the main area. If you want up-to-date news from all over the world, go follow our friend Chuck Holton. He's just everywhere, but he gives a lot of explanation, like Kevin. He's a Christian. We've had him on our show before. He gives good analysis.
Former Army Ranger.
Yeah.
And I think has he made it to Venezuela? The last video I saw, he was in Colombia.
He's been in Colombia. I don't think he can quite get to Venezuela yet.
Okay.
But
okay.
His video this morning offering analysis on these tanker things, that was really helpful. I watched it. So again, go to Chuck Holton, the Hot Zone. He also reports for CBN and Newsmax, I think.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But anyways, these are the images coming out this morning of the Coast Guard landing right on the tanker. So Russia's kind of trying to avoid turning over. But I mean, like, how are we able to just go capture a Russian ship? Like, how is that legal? Like, I don't even know how that works. Do you have to get permission?
It is Venezuelan oil. We've sanctioned it. It doesn't matter if the ship is Russian. It's what it's carrying.
Okay.
You know, and so like I said, I'm sure we'll give the ship back. But like I said, Russia was getting a lot of oil from Venezuela, and so yeah, they were trying to get those, I guess, last couple of ships out before we, because we have a blockade up, and we basically said no.
So if Russia can't get oil from Venezuela, and China can't get oil from Venezuela,
it is going
from Iran now? Like, is that the plan B?
Iran, it's going to hurt them. I'm pretty sure they are not happy. I mean, China has threatened legal action. But yeah, they are definitely worried about the ability to get oil, because, like I said, they make these alliances that basically are outside of the Western system, I guess you can say. And so instead of getting oil from OFAC, from Saudi Arabia, from all these other places, they've been getting it from Venezuela and Iran. And so and with say Venezuela's what's happening there, Iran is currently having issues internally.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because Natalie was asking. But before we leave Venezuela, pray for the people of Venezuela during this period of chaos. Pray for wisdom. Pray for our leaders, that they will be wise. Pray against corruption, further corruption.
And this is what I'll say too, in terms of not trying to compare this to Iraq or Afghanistan.
Okay.
It is a lot different dealing with Muslim Islamists who have some type of religious, belief and are willing to die for something, versus drug dealers who really like to live.
Okay.
Drug dealers typically don't want to die. They're
typically not suicide bombers.
No, they want money and women, and they like good things in life. So yeah, they'll fight to stay in power and to keep their money and things like that. But this ain't the same level of, I'm doing this for Allah and I'm gonna go to heaven and get 30 virgins because I died in jihad. That's it's a different motivation to fight, I'll say.
Well, my hope for the Venezuelan people is that they'll get their country back, and that our government will be able to help them stabilize it enough that eventually they can release political prisoners and have a fair and honest election. But there's just there's going to be a long road to that. I have a feeling.
Yeah. And this is what I'll say too. Think about it. When Chavez came to power in 1999, we probably should have stepped in then. We could have avoided 25 years of this and suffering.
The
if
decline.
we and decline if we
Yeah.
had said no or forced his hand when he came to power. But
I think Trump's going to try to convince Chevron, Conoco, and one of the other oil companies to come down there and invest tens of billions of dollars. That Chuck Holton said on his stream this morning. He says it would be probably at least 5 years before they would see any of that money back. He seemed a little skeptical that they would want to go on along with this plan, but the Maduro regime has allowed the equipment for the mining of the oil to
because
become so
the warmth of
dilapidated.
collectivism doesn't work. When no one owns it, no
Yeah.
one takes care of it.
Exactly. We do away with private property, but apparently Chevron is like the only oil company that's left. Like it's stayed down there and had a presence, but it just the refineries and everything, it's just it's all decayed and dilapidated. And so Trump's gonna try to talk these companies into coming down there and making an investment. I don't know if that's going to be effective or not, but that's what I'm hearing is one of the next steps. So that might happen like next week or something, that he's going to meet with them. So
Yeah.
well, let's talk a little bit about Iran and what's going on there, because it's not doesn't seem completely unrelated. I feel like calling it social unrest is a little bit of a negative connotation, but the people are starving, they have no water, and they're sick of the regime.
Yeah. Yeah. Things aren't going well. Their economy is horrible. And it's only so long people can deal with, are going to stand for a horrible economy.
Their money has lost value. It's runaway inflation. It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah, and it's just people are. I mean, the regime was already unpopular, and now when people are hungry and can't afford things and inflation's out of control, you just get more unrest. People are just fed up. It's just a lot of protests right now. People in the streets, they're marching, they're upset, and it's really just going to come down to how long does this go on? Because there's a lot of people that want this to grow and spiral and run this, I want to say administration out, but I think we're a long way from that.
So you think this is gonna take some time? You don't think that Iran's gonna collapse next week or anything?
I mean, it could. I mean, stranger things have happened. That would just be like Christmas all over again.
See, I feel like it could happen fast because I lived through the fall of the Soviet Union, and that happened so quick. It was like my whole childhood was consumed with the Cold War and Soviet Union, and seemed like this big unreachable power. And then all of a sudden these countries just collapsed like dominoes within days.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been thinking about it. But your theory is this could take a while.
I'm just saying this could be the moment, or it could be something that's just a flare up and it passes,
Because I'm hearing that whatever his name is, the Ayatollah or the supreme leader or whatever he's called, he's on his way to Russia practically. Like he's gotten an escape plan.
Well, yeah, they've reported that if things collapse, that's his plan, is to go to Russia, which no surprise there. But it said if the IRGC, which is their elite, is the elite military force that belongs to the Ayatollah. So the Ayatollah controls like the best part of the military. Okay. And like the president controls the regular military. But the IRGC is loyal to the Ayatollah. I mean, Iran exists because of the Ayatollah. It is a theocracy. And so it would be like, the Catholic Church having a massive elite army that was loyal to the Pope, Okay. That's the equivalent of it. And I don't know. I don't see them ever turning on him. And so that's what I'm saying. That's my hesitancy to say,
I'm hearing rumors though that in a couple of cities that police are now siding with the people And
The
have
police is one thing. The IRGC is something completely
that's
different.
different. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think of U.S. Special Forces, right?
Okay.
The U.S. Special Forces or the Iranian Special Forces are loyal to the Ayatollah. They will protect him. And it's a matter of, is that enough to keep them in power? Or, because I mean, it's not just him staying in power. If the whole government collapses, if the president is run out, then yeah, he's gonna have to leave.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. That's such a fluid situation.
But I will say this: with what's happened in Venezuela, if something happens in Iran, now China and Russia are in real trouble from an oil perspective.
Ew.
Yeah.
Well, there is this happening of the Pentagon pizza report as of 2:23 Eastern. Those pizza orders are way up. It could be something cooking.
The word has gotten out. For those who don't know, it has always been known as a tale of when something is going to happen in DC, because the pizza places around the Pentagon all of a sudden get some extra orders, we'll say. And so people have learned to look at the pizza places and see how busy they are near the Pentagon to kind of speculate if people are going to be working all night or not. If something's
there's
going
a
down.
whole X account tracking DC pizza orders.
We have got to get better at that because it's been a known thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if we intentionally do that on occasion just to make sure, just so it's not like a real tale. But whenever something does happen, you can pretty much go back and look and see. It's the pizza places and it's also the parking lot.
Okay.
All of a sudden, everybody starts showing up to work at 2 a.m. He's like, okay, what's going on?
So we'll see. We'll see if something's cooking in Iran or how things develop. It's kind of a fluid situation. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit in our remaining time we got about 20 minutes left on what is a conservative. Because man, there is so much confusion now. This whole big tent approach at building coalitions. It's like, what are our core ideas of what does it really mean? Like, I've left the Democrats. What am I now? And to me, I always call myself a conservative. I don't really focus on being a Republican. To me, a Republican is a political party, but being a conservative is more about a framework of ideas.
Yeah.
So for you, Kevin, what do you see as being some of the core things about being a conservative?
Yeah, so you made a good point. A lot of people have come over to the Republican Party because of what was going on in the Democrat Party being taken over by progressivism and wokeism. Mm-hmm. So they come over, but they're not necessarily conservatives from a definition standpoint. And so I wanted to pull up kind of some core principles of conservatism. When we talk about conservatives, what are we talking about? Typically, we're talking about limited government. So we talk about small federal government. We want to shrink the size of the federal government. And you see a lot of that. That's what President Trump and Elon was trying to do when they came into office.
Yeah, but I see this is where I get into the whole child care for all. I'm like, that's not a conservative idea.
No, it's not. That's big government. That's big government.
Yeah.
Individual liberty and responsibility. So an emphasis on personal responsibility. And essentially, it's not the government's job to pay for your child care. It's not the taxpayer's job. Free market economy, which is in terms of our Trump strategy, is people have questioned, is it free market? Is because of his tariff strategy.
It's more. This is more classically what we used to call protectionism is what Trump is doing, not free trade. But then we can have the whole debate about whether trade was really free or not, because it did seem like other countries had their finger on the scale. But okay, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, traditional values. That's traditional marriage, pro-life, things like that.
We've believed up until 40 years ago. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
A strong national defense.
Yeah.
So, um, so all of these people screaming about, um, every military action they scream and cry about. That's not a really conservative position. Conservatives, we typically like things like what happened in Venezuela because,
We tend to get our flag on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's a particular way of understanding and seeing the world. Because the other way is to believe that, as I like to say, the world is made of sugar and spice and everything nice except for the United States causing trouble. That's how a lot of anti-US people on the right and the left see things. The world would just be at peace if it wasn't for the United States, snatching leaders out of Venezuela. And then the last one is rule of law, the Constitution, and kind of a originalist view of the Constitution.
Yeah. And I would add to that, under rule of law, that everyone has to go by the same rules and the same
Yes.
laws. And so there's no favoritism of like, hey, if you're at the tippy top, those rules don't apply to you. It's okay to
Yeah.
engage in, I don't know, mass fraud. Like
Yeah.
that's not a conservative idea.
Or like DEI, or letting prisoners or letting people out of jail or prison because of their color of their skin or social economic status. And, it's like, no, they broke the law. They need to go to prison. And it's no, oh, this is a social justice thing and it's kind of reparations to not send Black people to jail. Like, that is not a conservative position. No. So rule of law is black and white. We believe in a kind of originalist understanding of the Constitution, what it meant then, it
what
means
did the
now.
founding fathers believe about this?
Yes.
What was their authorial intent in
Yes.
writing this or that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you notice the correlation, it's the same way we interpret the Bible.
Exactly.
Right? What God said and meant is what it means today. We don't get to reinterpret it to fit our whims and wants,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is really conservatism. It's small, limited government. It's strong national defense. It is the Constitution and rule of law. It's free trade and free market. Yeah, that's really the
Now,
conservative framework.
I would add a couple points to that. One is that I think that conservatives have a natural skepticism about utopian governments, such as
Absolutely.
communism, socialism, national socialism. Like, we are like, no, the focus is more on individuals and families as units, not on that a big government scheme can bring about peace and utopia. And
Yeah.
the reason we have a military is that it's a mindset that we believe the world is a pretty evil place, and so we need a good military to beat back evil.
Yes.
And so this is why it makes us upset when our soldiers are used for crazy things and things that are not compatible with our value system. But I think that we have that skepticism. Now, as Christians, I would say, when I call myself a conservative, I've thought a lot about this. That for me, a big component of it is, these days especially, is grounded in what does it mean to be a human? It's in our theological anthropology. I think that is the core thing that is under attack by progressives in particular. So in the red green alliance, that they want to redefine what it means to be a human. And that impacts the trans issues, it impacts definition of marriage, it impacts even children's rights, like our friend Katie Faust talks about, of like, protecting children in the womb, in IVF, in surrogacy, the redefinition of family, this whole wicked chosen family idea. I think that there's a lot of things. I would see pornography as part of that. I would even see, I am a skeptic, I will admit it, about things like the transhumanist movement and aspects of artificial intelligence even. This is why I'm against universal basic income as kind of an end goal of the artificial intelligence movement. I think that part of what it means to be a human person is to work, and that
Yes.
was there intrinsically to human beings before the fall. So I am not a universal basic income person because I think that violates God's order. And so for Christian conservatives, which I think could be a subset of conservatives, I think the questions around human anthropology and our theology of human anthropology is really like a big part of the core of what motivates us as Christian conservatives.
Absolutely. And I just like to point out that the reason Christians and conservative kind of go together is because, like I said, we're trying to conserve something. And Western civilization and America particularly was very built and rooted in a Christian worldview. Those ideas did not just come out of thin air. They came out of somewhere. And the fact that we want to conserve them, we want to conserve them mainly because we do find they align with our Christian values and a biblical worldview, you know? And so when you have these anti-Western forces and movements and ideologies, yeah, they say anti-Western. They say, oh, we're against white supremacy. And they say words like that, but really what they mean is we want to tear down the biblical worldview in which this nation was built on.
Yeah.
Because the minute you start saying Western or whatever, well, what's the opposite? You know? What is the opposite? And you see everything they promote is opposite of a biblical worldview.
I
And
would
so,
say
yeah,
another.
go ahead.
I was just saying another component. It's always so hard for me not to step on you. Kind of take a little
No,
breath.
good.
I'm like, okay, I think
You're
I
good.
could come in, and then I listen to the podcast back. I'm like, oh, this sounds like I'm interrupting him. There's a little delay between us, but another component of being a conservative, I think that's deeply biblical, is private property, which we're seeing really debated right now in New York City. And, it's right in the 10 Commandments. You shall not steal. Like the whole of the Bible, that a key part of the ethos of the Bible is private property and ownership. And so I think that's another critical part of it.
Yeah. And people try to confuse those things with a biblical worldview and framework in terms of this collectivism. Because, yes, collectivist, it's not just individualism. It is collectivist. In terms of scripture, we see it in Acts when they all came together. They voluntarily sold their things and gave them to the apostles, and they had all things in common. And they were living the utopia.
That is voluntary.
Yes, voluntary, and they sold their property. It was not seized through government power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you see this principle, but yeah, it's collectivism. My family is a collective.
Yes.
I go to work, and yet we share all things for the benefit of the collective in my family. The problem is they pervert this and make it about the state, and it's the government in which is determining this and political powers, and that's where it gets really perverted.
I think we have to differentiate between and not fall into the false dichotomy of, well, the West is just all about individualism and we're for the collectivist. And this from Mondami's speech this week, is inauguration speech. I feel like that's the false bifurcation.
It
because
is.
As Christians, and what built the West was actually micro collections. It's the micro community of the family and the small town, and that is very compatible with the biblical worldview. But what happens is when we turn the state into a collectivist society and it is going to run everything, then the state becomes God, and there's no law higher than the state. And so for the conservative, I think another critical component of being conservative is that we acknowledge there's a power that's higher than us, and that man-made laws are not all the way to the top. And so atheists can come along for the ride. That's fine. But I want them to understand at every turn, you're riding on the collateral of my worldview. And the only way we get to transcendent traditional laws here is if we are appealing to God. And this is where people like Vivek, I have a lot of concerns about Vivek Ramaswamy, but as a Hindu, he's borrowing collateral from the West, which is based on Christian principles. And you don't get to where he is in his worldview beliefs through Hinduism. Like, that's not happening.
Because, I mean, while he's religiously a Hindu, I don't know how practicing he is. His worldview is Western.
It's Christian in many, many ways. Yes.
Yeah. Which is why I don't have a issue with him, even though he's Hindu, because his worldview and his beliefs and his, like, the way he views things politically and stuff is Western, and is
like
a Christian
Harmony
worldview.
Dillon would be another example, you know, that she's a Baha'i or something, or Sikh, I forget, one of those. But she's Western in her thinking.
Yes.
And she's the top civil rights attorney in the country. If you don't know who Harmeet Dillon is, she's an Indian woman. But there, you know, there's I don't think that there's an appreciation a lot of times that Christianity is what built the West. And so if you have Western values, you have Christian values.
Yeah. I think more people are starting to realize that. I don't know if you remember the article I wrote for Christ Overall about basically atheists starting to realize that they need Christianity for the West to be the West.
Yeah.
And so it is being acknowledged because they realized once they removed Christianity, everything they held dear collapsed and it went straight woke. And so, but it still needs to be, they struggle with acknowledging that, and at the same time, their libertarianism or their liberalism, because they're afraid to put it at the forefront of things in terms of our laws, in terms of our government, because they start thinking separation of church and state. They start thinking Christian nationalism. And we're just saying, if you go back and look at the founders, and you go back and look at what they wrote, and you go back and look at the state constitutions, and you go back and look at the prayers that they said in Congress and stuff, it was Christian.
Yeah.
and it wasn't a theocracy, but they realized the foundation that things were built on was this Christian worldview.
Now, I would say we'll wrap it up here, but I would say Trump is not really a true conservative. I think you're right. In your analysis, I don't forget it was you or Devin who said this, but that Trump is kind of a 1990s Bill Clinton policy.
That's what he is.
He's a 1990s Democrat, and that's how far the Overton window has shifted, you know, in terms of conversations. Because if you go back to clips from the 90s of even Biden and Clinton, they're saying a lot of the same policy ideas that Trump is putting forward. And so I don't think I have to hold it in tension. And people assume that you and I and Monique we're just Trump sycophants, you know? And it's like, please stop. You don't know what you're talking about. Sit down, learn some things, read some books. We are biblically oriented Christian conservatives. And that goes for our moral framework as well as our economic framework. And this is how we see the world. Now, there are some places maybe we might overlap with Trump, but I strongly disagree with Trump on some things. I don't like his policies on IVF. I don't like it that yesterday he was talking about being flexible on the abortion issue.
Yeah.
You know, I think that he's way too deep into like the paying for government-funded childcare and preschool. I'm not for that. He is not a true conservative.
No, he's a populist, and Trump will give you anything if he thinks it gets your support. I mean, let's make a deal. So he's not really principled in that way. Only in the ways in which he feels it benefits him and his
Exactly.
agenda. Yeah, the high thing. Yeah. So Natalie said, let's see, says to clarify, Vivek is a Hindu with Western values. Is that so different from a non-Christian with Western values? Sincerely asking. And my answer is no, it's
No,
not.
I think that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the same way, I mean, I would vote for, because it's like Trump. I'm not going to sit here and say Trump's a Christian, but I'm going to judge his policies versus the alternative policies, right?
Yeah.
But when I listen to Vivek and his policies, I don't disagree with him.
A lot of his policies I like, some of them I don't, but I mean, that's the same with Trump too,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you. This is great. Hopefully people found it helpful. Tell
Yeah.
people more about Informed Takes and where they can catch you live tomorrow night.
Yeah, just go to Informed Takes on YouTube. Devin and I will be back live tomorrow night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. So, yeah.
Talking about geopolitics and more complaints about Trump. Whatever.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is Venezuela, and we're going to talk a lot about Mamdani and the warmth of collectivism.
Oh, goody. Goody. All right, friends, share this out. Help us out. Even if you watch the replay, make sure to make a comment, hit the like button. All of those things help to propagate it to more. Our good friend Monique is working her way back. She's come to some meetings this week. She's getting back in the groove. Hopefully she'll be back with us on the family meeting. If not next week, in 2 weeks, aiming for that. So continue to pray for her. And we really appreciate all your prayers and your support. Over the holidays, we had a wonderful year-end campaign. You guys really showed up for us. We are so grateful to have our programs have strong funding going into this year. And we've got some exciting announcements coming in the coming weeks. So just really good things happening here at the Center for Biblical Unity. Keep praying for us. Pray for our unity as a staff. Pray for God's protection over us, all of those things. And tomorrow I'm going to be dropping a very special family meeting. It'll be like a special edition of the family meeting. It'll be a pre-recorded teaching on inclusion and belonging. So I've been doing occasional teachings related to DEI. This will be about the 5th one that I've done. So you can check that out tomorrow. It'll be on the podcast stream and on YouTube. So thank you so much. We will see you. Have a good week. God bless you. Grace and peace.